I wanted to ask you, what do you think has made you relevant for all these years?
There's no such thing as a dumb question. Don't pretend you know, ask.
Sometimes people want to replace. The moment you're trying to replace, you're going to have a problem.
Like Black travel has become a movement. People may be looking at me like,
why are you here? We are all connected. So join me as I talk to like-minded people about topics that are appropriate to the current times we are living in. My name is Lerato Shabalala and this is Relevant. Hello everyone, we're into 2021. I am excited. Like my guest today is a vibe, we're talking about one of my favorite things, sex. So if you are listening or watching this podcast and you're at work, please put on your earphones because we are going to be talking erections, vaginas, coming, all of that stuff because we're adults. This is what we do. She is an author like me, and just you should go check out her TED Talk on sex. It's just incredible. She's articulate. She is a feminist. She is a proud Black woman and is free. You guys know when I had my radio show on Touch Central back in the day, on a Friday, I had a sex show and I play the sexiest music. By the way, go listen to my playlists. And I did it because I wanted to free ourselves as women, for people to know that we're sexual creatures, that sex doesn't happen to us. It's something that we choose. Please help me give a warm welcome to a relevant warm welcome to the one and only Tiffany Mugo. How are you, Tiffany? Welcome.
Ooh, this is exciting. Hey. I'm good, my baby. How are you?
I'm brilliant. First of all, I want to say cheers to you for making it to 2020.
Cheers.
We're both talking, by the way. Must we have a sip? Because why not?
We must.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, you and I are going to be talking about so much. You wrote the Quirky Quick Guide to Having Great Sex, okay? And who doesn't want to have great sex? And
right.
You are also a feminist. So I want people to understand that what Tiffany does is really educate us about sex. It's not like just salacious, because everybody wants to have great sex. But there are all kinds of things that are attached to great sex. And I think the way you approach it is so wonderful. But I mean, I think the first place to start is the hub of loving action in Africa. Please tell us about how it started, why you started it, and why it was important to you to start Hola Africa.
So it was one of those sort of not even passion projects. You know those projects you start for yourself.
Yes.
Because you're like, I want this. I want to see this on the internet, so I'm going to do it. So it started as a place where people could archive their like sort of sexual experiences. And then from there, we started seeing the stuff people were archiving and we're like, woohoo, Jesus. I feel like people myself included, need help, right? So it grew from just like an archiving space to just being a place of knowledge production and giving information on the Instagram, the Twitter. We have a couple of podcasts. Now we're trying to get into like making a movie that's basically going to be a very, very sexy movie. Ooh. And so we just were like trying to figure out a way of giving information about sex in like a fun way, right? Because a lot of the information we get is very serious pamphlets about pregnancy or serious pamphlets about STDs and STIs and serious pamphlets about this and that and blah. But like, it was a case of like, we were trying to do work that dealt with people's pleasure and showed that pleasure was like an intricate, intimate part of having like sex and having safe sex and having like not even good sex, because now when you're like, yeah, so you say pleasure, people are like, yeah, good sex, but like having safe sex and holistic sex and like proper sex, like adding in the pleasure element. So we started the platform. It was me and my partner, like I think like 7 years ago. And it's just one of those things where it just keeps doing a new thing. It keeps growing into a new thing. And so one of the times when I was trying to figure out how else to like bring information about sex, I was like, a book. And then I'm like, what sort of book? A book with tips, just small tips. Don't ask me a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So now with this platform, it's just like all about just churning out this information and finding out new and innovative ways, because the internet is a marvelous space, right?
Yes.
The internet is a gorgeous space and you can find things. We are always being banned on Instagram. Like we're always being like, our posts are taken down and then we're told you've got one more chance until we take down your account. So yeah, so we just wanted a space with Holla Africa where people could come, find out information in a way that wasn't preachy. And the whole point of Holla is to feel like your best friend is coming, is like, sis,
Let me
you gotta
tell
try
you.
this.
Exactly.
Let me tell you though, ma'am, let me tell you though. So like that's like the whole point of Holla and like the whole point of the book and basically the whole point of like everything I do. I want everything I do to feel like a friend is coming. Is like, let me tell you something. I've got something for you. Don't worry about this.
Yeah, exactly. You know, one of my favorite quotes is by Toni Morrison. She said that if there's a book you want written, you have to write it yourself. And I think both you and I did that respectfully. When I wrote The Way I See It, I wanted a book that was written by a Black woman that was audacious and loud and cursed and talked about sex and beauty. And I think you have done the same thing. And I think it's marvelous what you have done. So I was reading one of your interviews and they asked you what was your favorite part of the book. And you spoke about erection free sex. Now, let me tell you why I want to start with that first. Yesterday, I was with some girlfriends, socially distancing, obviously. And, and we were talking, we just somehow stumbled on talking about sex and masturbation. We then figured out that one of us had not, and this is like the loudest of the group, like the one who's like, when you see her, you think like, okay, she's like that girl who's doing all kinds of things.
Swinging from the chandeliers.
Listen right here. She said she hadn't masturbated since she was 15 years old. What? When I say to you the plight, the sadness that we felt as a group, we were trying to understand like, why had you not? Were you ashamed of it? And she was like, no, I like men to give me pleasure. I was like, but you've got to know what you like. And it's like self-discovery. It's like meditation. It's like love. It starts with you. And so like, what is it about us women why is masturbating such a thing for us? Why is it not a celebration, exploration?
It's because sex isn't supposed to be something that we do, right? So like it's that whole thing of sex happens to us. Like exactly. Even if you think of modern phrases, giving her the D, penetration, like all those things of like, why are these things? Huh?
Smashing.
Yes, I hit that. Oh my days. That one is just one where I'm like, no, please, no. Tiny Satan, no. Right? So like this whole idea that sex is happening without like a male person being there, or like somebody with a penis coming and bringing all of this like intense pleasure that apparently penises are always bringing all the time. People can't deal with that, right? And it's even like, it's reminding me of a story that I was on the radio a few days ago or a few weeks ago, and somebody was like, hi, my boyfriend bit my dildo, because like now the boyfriend had a beef with the dildo. And like everyone was like, I can understand why he did it. He's now competing with this penis. And I'm like, why literally you'd look at a phallus and you're like, me and this thing have a beef. I'm like, why do you have a beef with a dildo? Who bites someone's dildo? Exactly. And apparently they broke it. And so now it's that whole thing of like, men feel like they have the monopoly on pleasure and they have the monopoly on sex. Not even just men think this, even women, like your friend being like, I need a man to give me pleasure. That's where, and it's not a flex. And she probably was saying it like a flex. Like, yeah, I've been getting mine done for like the last 30 years. Or like, no, it's not a flex, right? So, and I understand that whole thing where you people are all like, but because even if you're in a relationship, masturbation is like a total go. It's not even like one of those things where just bam. Like I masturbated the other day. I can still feel it in my bones.
It's
I can
so
to this day.
amazing because you can't
So good.
expect your partner to give you everything. It's so funny though you spoke about that because one of the girls said that she had a little mini dildo and she was loving it so much, a vibrator. She was using it like 2-3 times a day, and then she was at res at the time, and then the guy she didn't see the guy, her boyfriend, coming into the house, and he caught her and he threw it away. He threw it away.
Sex toys are not cheap. That man owes her a vibrator.
Brother,
How?
hi.
How? Like I'm shocked by that story. And like he felt it was okay to throw it away. Do I come in and I throw away your phone? Respect me, please. Just respect me, please.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So
like I think it's one of those things, like the way you are saying, you need to like take your pleasure into your own hands, but also sometimes masturbating is fun for the sake of it, right? Because that's another rumor that was spread as women, that our masturbation must be candles and massage oils and this and that. Sometimes you just put on your favorite video and rub one out.
No, I mean,
like you've got 20 minutes until your next Zoom call. Rub one out. Just handle your business.
Exactly. You know, also Tiff, what I have found for me is that women are animals like men. We are animals, and the time before we go on our periods, we are horny as all hell, and it is a natural instinct for you to want to masturbate. Like it's a normal thing because your hormones, everything is working inside of you, and I just don't understand how we deny ourselves that. Now let's talk about giving yourself pleasure. One of the things we said to our friend yesterday is that it's not all, I'm remembering one of our friends last night saying, yeah, I didn't know how to work my hand. I was still, now I know how to get myself there. And we were saying to her, it's not necessarily even about a toy. You can use your hand. So can we talk about self-pleasuring and also even your partner pleasuring you? That does not involve something coming inside of you, because truly pleasure doesn't necessarily have to involve something phallic.
Penetration.
Yeah.
Like so we're being 100 on this podcast. It's fine. I feel like I've forgotten that we're on a podcast. It's fine. But like I am a huge fan of the pillow method. You know the pillow method?
No, tell me about the pillow method.
Like, when you have a pillow between your legs and you like rub against the pillow, that's like a universally, try it. Like, and it helps with like write that down, try it. Like, because that's like one of the things that a lot of women actually do. And it's a lot of the ways that women first masturbate, right? It's just like riding a pillow. It's like the most basic thing ever because it just like stimulates that whole area. And just like, I love the fact that you bring up that, masturbation doesn't necessarily have to like be a penetration thing. Like you can have like boob orgasms. You can just like touch different parts of you that you like feel good about. So I have a friend who doesn't even masturbate. They just read erotica and they put their legs together. It just fills their whole body just reading the right erotica. So I think once we start diversifying, and this includes men, right? And their role in bed and stuff, right? Once you start diversifying your portfolio outside of penetration being the main act of sex, you will stop biting people's dildos and throwing away people's vibrators. Like 2021, can we respect ourselves, please, right? Can we not be embarrassed?
Exactly.
Let's not be embarrassed in 2021. Stop biting people's dildos, decenter the phallus, right? And like, I feel like, because even if you look at studies, if we're going to get academic about this, if you look at studies, there's studies that have shown that less women actually like climax from penetration than they do from clitoral stimulation. But people are just trying to slide into you every day.
Exactly.
Every day.
Exactly.
Why are you like this? But yeah, so like I think it's just one of those things, it like really try and figure out other things you like. You might start coming back to the classics, and that's something that I advocate for, like trying new things. Like you never know what you'll like, and like trying to sometimes shy away from penetration and find out if there's different things that you can do that you'll also like. It's a whole thing.
Totally.
It's a whole thing.
And for me, so the reason why we wanted you as one of our first guests, actually you're one of our first 5 guests in the year, is because the podcast will comes back again, is back again from Feb. And obviously Feb is the month of love. And you touched on something so important, which is relationships, right? One of the things you were talking about how women, not as a certain percentage of women don't come from penetration. While I enjoy that feeling, I'm one of those women where it takes a whole lot more than just, you know what I mean? And I think it is crucial. One of the reasons I love you talking about erection free sex is that whether you are a queer woman like you, or whether you're a straight woman like me, we have the same anatomy, right? There's certain things that we need and want as women. Why do you think the emancipation of us as sexual beings needs to happen? Why do you think it's important for people to hear you and me talking about sex openly, talking about coming, talking about all these things? Why is it so important to you? Because I know you didn't just write the book to give people tips, right? But you also wrote it as it's revolutionary what you're doing. And why was that crucial to you?
So for me, like, I'm always very bad at holding the revolution in my bones. I'm always like, I have the hubris of a white boy. I'm always like, I'm gonna just do what I want to do. Y'all can't ask me nothing, right? But like, so I think with this, like, the more I've thought about it, and because I need to start doing things more intentionally in 2021. Right. But with this, I think there is something very powerful about like a Black woman, and especially a Black African woman, being like, let's talk about sex, right? Because that's often a conversation that's reserved for like a certain sort of person, right? Exactly. A Westerner, a white person, you know, living in the global North. Yes, liberated, doing all the things. So like, I think, and the thing is, when we start taking away the idea that only certain people are allowed to talk about sex and certain people are allowed to engage with sex and certain people are allowed to unpack sex, then we can all start having the conversation, right? So now it's like when you look at me and you're like, the gumption, the gall, the spirit of this unmarried young Black woman living best life, drinking wine. Where does this sissy get off like talking about these things? Then you start thinking, actually, maybe I can talk about these things, right? Because also something I've learned from my work is, because I'm in the sex positive realm, something I've learned from my work is you have a person who looks a certain sort of way and is a certain level of like ridiculously sexy, and then they can be sex positive, right? Because they're out here, they're kinky, they're pole dancing, which I do, but like it's not something like that's part of like my general brand. So I think there's something to be said about like quote unquote just, you know, the average Joe sitting there being like, I'm gonna talk about sex, not because I have a PhD in it, not because like I'm some like, you know, drunken white boy like talking about it from a rooftop, but because I'm like, it's something that I'm interested in. There's nothing to be ashamed of, because I've also had to fight all of my own demons, right? Because like I come from like a semi-conservative Kenyan family, so there's a lot of like my own like, oh, should I be talking about sex? Like for the first 2 years of my career, every time someone said penis to me, I'd be like, please no, I'm getting paid to write about sex. But the minute someone's like penis, I'm like, they're like vagina, I'm like
literally, so I had to was like that yesterday. No, guys, she turned red. I'm like, what's going on with you?
Like, look, and that's something that it takes a lot of work to overcome, but it's easier to overcome when you have people around you doing it, right? So like when you have a podcast like yours that invites me as a guest, you normalize talking about sex, right? I didn't have to now go to like, you know, what was that thing? What was that time? Is it on E channel?
Oh my God.
See, I'm very bad at these things. Emmanuel. You see, I didn't have to come on just before Emmanuel to speak about sex. It's in a podcast. It's every day. Like I've been on the radio, I've been on the news. Like, so when you have people just speaking about these things, it normalizes it, and it takes that, you know, that woo out of sex when you just see your friends doing it. Like, well, not sex, unless you want to watch your friends, but that's for you guys to discover.
That's your business.
That's your business now. Like,
that's your business.
Your business.
So for somebody who hasn't read the book, what would be your summary of what to expect from a quirky quick guide to great sex?
So it's one of those books that, like the way I said, it needs, like I wrote it so you feel like your friend is like giving you, as I said, like quirky quick tips. Like, okay, so you want to know how to give head, here are 5 steps. You want to know how to clean your sex toys, here are 10 steps. seven reasons you should masturbate. So like it's like this book that basically you can pick up, and this is something also people have described to me who've read it, right? They're like, it's a sort of book you can pick up just before you're about to go do something. So say somebody's in the living room and you're like, oh my gosh, I actually don't know how to, like, eat pussy. Oh my gosh, what should I do? What should I do? Then you go to the thing, you turn to page like 74 or whatever, and it's like, pa, 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 go do greatness. So like I wanted the book to be like exactly what the title says. And it covers everything. So it covers everything from how to have a breakup to how to have a one night stand to, the history of squirting and how to squirt to, how to deal with sex and trauma. Like I tried to cover, like it would be impossible to cover everything about sex in one book. But like I tried to cover as much as I could, even like an intro to polyamory, and non-monogamy, an intro to kink, and I was just like throwing things on there at one point. I was just like, if it came into my mind, I'd write a chapter on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So at this moment in time, I don't even properly remember what's in there. So if you find something interesting, holler at a girl, right? Just be like, I found this. It's fine.
So there's so many things that I want to ask you that you mentioned. But I'm going to steady myself because, okay, first of all, let me mention this point so we can come back to it. Okay.
Okay.
I have a fascination with squirting. I really do. And I think it's because I can't. And then you said you teach people how to. So I'm going to ask people just because I want to know how to. It looks like the most amazing, amazing thing ever. So we're going to come back to that because there's so many things. But I want to ask you about the first chapter that you wrote. Oddly enough, my book covers many things. The way I see it covers many things. But I wrote the sex chapter is the first chapter. I wrote it because I had a fuck buddy at the time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It was amazing. Oh, great body. And I was single and it was a rainy day. And I really I would have loved to have had sex, but I didn't. And then I thought, okay, if I can't have it, can I talk about it? Can I talk about talking dirty and all these things? And people are surprised that that's the first chapter I started with. And it's the chapter that makes people laugh. It's number 3, chapter 3, everybody loves it. What chapter did you start with and what was happening for you to start with that particular chapter? Do you remember even?
Ooh, I don't, because my mind is so wild. Like if you look at the book, each chapter feels like a standalone chapter, but you can clearly see it's like one thing.
Yeah.
But I think one of the first chapters I wrote was, oh my gosh, I actually have no idea. I have no idea. Because I think I started 3 chapters at the same time.
Oh, really?
And I had like this whole idea where it was going to be this really mature book about, first it's going to have consent, and then it's going to have like this, and then it's going to have STDs and STIs. And next thing you know, I was like, Googling different types of lube. I think the lube chapter might have been one of the first chapters. But like, I have no idea because it was just, at one point, it was just a whirlwind. I'd be sitting watching something on TV and I'd be like, ooh, I should write about this. Yeah, like, ooh, let's add this and let's add that. But like, I have no idea. I wish I had a nice Genesis story like that one. That's a nice story.
I know.
Like you were sitting, wanted to have sex, wrote a book. Damn. There you go.
I was like, that's what I'm going to write about because I can't have it. So one of the things you mentioned that's very important is consent. And you define consent in a way that I love. And it was good for me also because I realized it's a new thing. I mean, I'm 40, I'm going to be 41 actually this year. And I realized with sadness that I don't always express what I want in relationships, particularly when it comes to sex. Like I would, and like the men that I've been with will tell me what they want. Move here, do this. I like my nipples to be sucked. I want blah, blah, blah. And I find that stuff so freeing. But when I had to say, I wanted that, this is what I want, I struggled with that. And you mentioned that is part of consent. It's not about yes or no. Consent is this is what why is it a struggle? Somebody like me who had a sex show, I wrote an entire chapter in my book about sex, and yet I'm now in a relationship and I'm struggling to say this is what I want. I'm older, I'm evolved. What's that about? Like and that's something that happens to a lot of women in relationships, all kinds of relationships, heterosexual, homosexual, whatever. What is the issue with saying what we want?
It's because we're not. So there's this whole idea that once you become sex positive, which you clearly are, that all of a sudden all of the baggage that you've learned for, because you learn all that baggage for like 20 years before you even begin to think of shaking it off, right? So like, it's like the way I said before, even when I was a sex writer, people would say penis to me and I'd giggle. Because funny as that story is, it meant that I was carrying a lot of shame around sex, a lot of discomfort around sex. And I think as women, we're socialized a lot and we're continuously reminded that we have no business talking about sex. We have no business conceptualizing sex. We must turn up and whatever is on the table, it's an a la carte menu. You can't be going and starting to pick new things, right? You can't pick and mix. This is not pick and mix. What is on the menu is what's on the menu. And you must be fine with that. And it takes a lot to unlearn that, right? And because it's really difficult to unlearn because we're not taught to unlearn it, right? Like, the way, like, as Black people, one day we're taught that, what, our skin is beautiful. And then we see Netflix trying to do all sorts of shows. Like, there's a whole framework around it. But with this, especially for women, there is no framework. There are few people leading the charge on actually women should be more cognizant of their sex and things. And so the furthest the conversation has gone to is you should be able to say no. And that's why, like, the work I do, I'm always pushing the pleasure part because I'm like, no, it should go past saying yes or no. It should be like, yes, but also I like this. So if you're bringing this nonsense, no. Like, it goes back to no. If you're bringing nonsense, it goes back to no. If it's all about you, it goes back to, like, just having this idea that consent goes way, way past just saying yes. It now goes to thinking, you have to now start thinking about the sort of pleasure you want and then vocalizing that pleasure. And it's really, really hard to do that because we're not taught to do that. We're actually shamed for doing that because, like, if you think about women who know about sex, like, you get two reactions. Either people ask you really intrusive questions randomly off the cuff, unprovoked, or people are like, why are you doing that? Like, actually, somebody had the audacity to ask me why I wrote that book. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's a helpful book. They're like, why would you do something like that? Why are you being that woman? And I'm like, what woman? So, like, we're constantly shamed for knowing and learning our wants and needs rather than being like, oh, okay, you know what? Because I always say that same way you tell a woman that they can always be a CEO of a company or whatever, you should also tell women at the same time that they should have all the orgasms in the world. Yeah. It's all just rising to the top of, like, things. And it's so sad. It's so sad because I struggled with it for ages. And, like, it's one of those things, even with all of the stuff I talk about, I'll have moments where I'm like, I should say something. And I have to, like, psych myself up to be like, this is what I can possibly want. And it's even part of my 2021 intentions. My whole big age, my whole long career in sex positivity, it's still one of my things where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a lot more intentional about my sex. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to figure out what I want. I'm not just there to look pretty. I'm not just, like, part of the, like, bedroom furnishings. Like, I'm an active participant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you get over that initial thing? So this is advice for me and for every other woman who's in a relationship, who's watching and is thinking, I want to tell him this is what I want, but I don't know how to. How do you get and I want to tell her what I want, but I don't know how to. How do women begin to tell our partners what we want? What are the steps you take? What is the mental conversation that happens for you to psych yourself up and say, actually, you're not giving my nipples enough attention? For instance.
I love that. So, like, now you see, you reminded me that this is actually a chapter in the book of, like, how to talk about the sex, right? So one of the tips that I give in the book is, like, try and be, like, number one, try and approach the conversation as kindly as possible. So a lot of people will approach the conversation in a, you are doing wrong sort of way. Make it more of a, like, a positive, this is what I want sort of way, right? And, like, one of the things that I also say in the book is try not to have the conversation in bed. I know it seems counterintuitive, but like have the conversation in neutral settings, because bed, like emotions are heightened, people are ready, people are horny, people are not thinking nicely, or they're too invested in the sex. So now if you're trying to give critique, whoo, I cannot take feedback right now, please. Like save your feedback. That's why people don't give feedback at the time. You put it in the suggestion box.
Yes.
People will read it later, right? So I would suggest, like, you know, finding a time where you can just have the conversation, where there's no pressure, where somebody's not now thinking, oh my gosh, how do I do this thing that they just wanted? And also finding examples, guys. I'm going to put it out there. Finding examples of what you want, right? So you can find a lot of articles, right, about the things that you want. You can find examples in porn. If you and your partner have that sort of like back and forth, because that's a really fun way. Weirdly enough, it's a very fun way of showing the sort of thing you like, where you're like, you know what would be fun? Spanking. And you know, you have a small video in Yana that shows the sort of thing that turned you on last time.
Yeah.
Hello. Like, I'm a big fan of articles. I feel like there's so many articles out there about things. Like the way I'm always sending straight men articles about pegging. I'm like, try it. People are really enjoying it. Don't be scared. So just like try and have the conversation in as neutral a place as possible. Like if you're really shy, send a message. There's so many platforms that are out there, right? So like you can send a message if you like, or you can send a voice note. Like it doesn't have to be like this serious in bed. Oh my gosh, I have to tell you something. Our sex life has gone to hell because you don't rub my nipples nicely. Right?
Yeah.
It's okay. And also just, I think first steps first, don't be scared of the conversation, right? Because if you're not scared of the conversation, then it'll also put the other person at ease. And if the other person doesn't take it well at all, that could be a semi-red flag in itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Like maybe
if
you're not with the right person. Yeah.
Exactly. If they're more interested in getting mad at the fact that you want to own your sex life and you want to have fun in bed, they're like, no, but I'm always hitting it right. That's we're leaving that content in 2020, guys.
No,
2020 was hard enough.
No, really.
No more.
What is pegging? Sorry, I don't know what.
Oh, pegging is when, this is for the heterosexuals. You always gotta do things for the heterosexuals. So it's when a heterosexual woman puts on a strap-on and penetrates a heterosexual man, right?
Oh, so
and they have to put this heterosexuality in there, because straight men are always like, oh, but that makes me gay. No, literally, the reason pegging is set up that way is because, like, it's called pegging because that it had to be separated from all other forms of anal, because straight men are out here feeling some type of way when they're clumped in with everyone else. So it's a case of like, no, it is when your heterosexual female partner puts on a strap-on and penetrates you. And it's like a whole thing. And I've read so many articles about it where the men are like, I didn't think I'd like it, but now I'm like wild for it because, you know, the prostate and doing a thing. And I promise you, straight men out there, you are still straight. Because you know the way that touches straight men's souls. Am I gay now? No, it's fine. You're still straight. You're just broadening your sexuality.
Yes.
It's fine.
Yes. So one of my last two questions is going back to what I said before. So I think I think people in relationships, women should watch porn. I think you must decide the porn that is good for you. We suggested for a friend who's not masturbating that she must consider that sort of erotic porn, you know what I mean? Where it's more sensual, right? For me in particular, and now I'm telling people way too much about myself. I really am fascinated. I know, I can't believe it's you, Tiffany, and the wine. Speaking of
it's gotten well out of hand. It's all gone wild.
Exactly. So what I'm fascinated by squirting, and I don't know why. And maybe it's because I have a vagina myself. So, but I think maybe it's because I don't know how to do it. So how does it happen? It's like, is it something that you learn? Are some of us incapable? Because yesterday, like my one girlfriend was like, the bed was wet. She was just, I was like, I didn't know how to say it to her. I wish.
No, but like, it's one of those things where like not everyone can do it. I'm not as adept at doing it as other people. I think it's happened like twice in my life right?
Really?
But I have a friend who on cue, like they can make it happen. They can show their partners, they can do a thing.
Me
It
too.
is sometimes they don't even orgasm, but they still squirt, right? So like it's a whole right. No, squirting is a whole complicated thing, right? So like it's
Girl.
one of those things where like yes, squirting is a great experience, but like for like one of the things my friend stressed was it's like it's not the mecca of orgasms, right? By squirting, it doesn't mean that now you have reached the promised land. All other orgasms will pale in comparison and stuff. Like it is a type of orgasm, right?
Ah,
So it's like one of those things where one of the things that is most important is the relaxing part, right? Because you know you get that moment where you feel like you're going to pee.
yes.
You're not going to pee. It's all about relaxing enough to like push past that. And then it's so intricate, it's so intimate, and like yeah, so I because one that is one of the key things that I always tell people. Because also I'm not a huge squirter. So like I'm not even like the oracle on this, right?
Yes.
I know people, wow, like woo, it is like a second job to them. Goodness. It's like a second job. But like so it's one of those things of actually just relaxing, right? And in the book it gives you like a step-by-step guide. I think it's like 4 or 5 steps, and then also using the butterfly. Yeah, it's all a thing. Like whew, squirting. But if you Google, but you also need to Google nicely, right?
Okay.
When you're Googling how to squirt, you're going to get a lot of porn. You're going to get a lot of porn. And also remember in porn, sometimes they like put water, they squirt water inside her. And then what she does is she uses her muscles to give the effect.
Oh
Porn is a
no. Are you
performance. Oh my gosh.
serious?
Porn is a performance, sweetheart. Even the smacking sounds that you hear, there's somebody behind post production who smacks 2 chicken breasts together, and then they overlay that. You guys don't understand. It's $1 billion industry because people are working hard.
I know.
People are working hard post production.
And I should know this. I come from magazines where when we shoot a cover, the girl, we have stapled the thing, we're holding it with clip-ons. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I don't know why I didn't make that connection with sex. That obviously with porn,
Yeah.
obviously they're working hard to make it look the way.
Folks are working hard. There's the camera guy, there's the guy with mic 1, mic 2, mic 3, there's the sound production guy in the back. Like guys, there's a director. Guys,
Exactly.
it's serious. It's a big industry. So
Exactly.
yeah, so like it's one of those things where like even with squirting, and I think one of the reasons squirting has become such a thing of like, oh my gosh, this is the epitome of sex, is because of porn, right? And how porn shows this woman having this wild orgasm, and it's just like the river Nile out her vagina, just one time the river Nile, right? And so like it's now we start seeing those things, and then you grow up seeing that, and even men grow up, and so like now they're trying to make you squirt. They're trying to be like, oh my gosh, if you squirt, now they think that they've done a thing, and that could have actually been of your top 10 orgasms, that might only be number 6. But
Right.
because you squirted, everyone's feeling good. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, that was
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine.
Right. So probably my last question to you is, um all of us at some point or another, I mean, there's about 7 billion of us, and there's billions of us because we have sex.
Mhm.
And women in particular feel that sex, and that I think we do. I'm not saying this is an immutable fact, but I think that women really on some unconscious level think that sex happens to us, right? um and so it takes us a long time to discover what we like, why we like it. What are your top 5 things that you would give as a tip for having great sex? Obviously, you guys must go get the book, okay? First of all. So we're not going to give you everything because you must buy the book. By the way, where is the book available? Is it at most
Everywhere.
everywhere?
Yeah, exclusive books, CNA, bargain books, the book
And
lounge if you're in Cape Town, all the things. And if they don't have it, make them order
please
it.
tell them
Make them order
the
it.
Quirky quick guide to great sex. How do we begin to have great sex? So like, what are the 5 things that you really would say are the nuggets that come out of the, or things that people can do to start getting themselves to having great sex, because we need to have great sex. It's something that you're going to do when you're in a relationship, and also have great sex with yourself. Sorry, I'm an advocate of masturbation. In fact, not sorry. You really need to discover yourself. Masturbate, ladies, masturbate even when you are in a relationship. If you didn't hit it right or she didn't hit it right and they leave the room to go watch TV and you're still in the bedroom, be like, I need to finish this off proper. I know I've done it several times. Yeah. So
do it.
Yeah, I do, girl. No, I'm like, one of us is happy, one of us is not. I'm about to like finish this off right here. You go watch TV. I'ma come. I've told you guys too much about myself. So what are the also you can buy my book, Talk Dirty to People, have sex. It's good, it's life, we're adults. This is relevant conversation. What are the 5 things we can start to do to have great sex?
So I think for me, the first one, which is like the theme of the whole book, is communicate. Learn how to communicate about sex, right? Learn how to communicate not only with your partner, but with your friends. Like what you guys did yesterday was sitting around and all having that conversation. That was powerful and that was important because there's so much knowledge other people have. So the first thing for me is communicate with other people, with your partner, figure out a way to not be shy about having the conversations. Number 2 is Google. Like Google is your friend. Like actually trying to find ways of like finding out the information you need to know. So like the information about pegging is out there. The information about like, squirting is out there. All this information is out there, right? And so it's just about finding it. But also when you find this information, find information that does not make you feel bad about your wants, right? If it is consensual and it is healthy and like no one is being harmed, like, unless it's kink. And then that's its own thing, right? But like, as long as it's consensual with all parties involved and everyone is the age of consent, etc., do your kink, do you, boo-boo, right? Do you. So like, just find out information that does not shame you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think now. 5. Woo, I will fill 5. I will fill 5. Masturbation. Wait, no, I will fill 5. Masturbation as well. Do the masturbation thing. Yes. Oh, what other one? Oh, I'm just gonna say it. Practice sexting. Sexting is a great way of figuring out your wants and needs because now you can't rely on the autopilot of like being in the room and touching, especially during a time of COVID, social distance, my people, social distance. So like now, because that was one thing I was taught when I was having, so a few months back, I'm in a 10-year relationship, but I'm in an open relationship. So a few months back, I was having a thing with somebody and they're in a different country. And my wants and needs and my pleasures and stuff, like I was stretched to the limit because I had to actively describe everything I wanted. Like, so it was a case of like, I would want you to do X, Y, Z. And you can't just keep generating the same hits, right? So I would say sexting is a really great way of, number 1, figuring out your wants and needs. Number 2, communicating them. And number 3, it's just really hot, especially if you can do it well. It's really, really hot. And number 5, the last one, is learn to appreciate your body. Like learn to appreciate your body. Take time to explore your body, not even in a sexual way, but just looking and being like, actually, I love my body and this is the body that I take out into the world. This is the body that I'm with and in every day. And this is the body that I take into the bedroom, right? So when you get to a point where you genuinely love your body and you're genuinely engaging with your body in a healthy, loving way, like I'm not saying now all of a sudden you must start like, deciding that you're a model for Fushini or something. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like actively looking at your body and like, because also with women, we have those moments where we cringe. Actually, a lot of people, there's a lot of body shaming. Body shaming is $1 billion industry. So actively, number 5 would be actively loving your body and just looking at all your bumps and creaks and curves and being like, yes.
My sexual revolution started in my early 20s. And I watched an episode of Oprah, and Miss Oprah was talking to Iyanla Vanzant. And Iyanla Vanzant said, how many women have looked at their vaginas? And everybody was like, and she said, take a mirror, look at your vagina. So the artist Zanele Muholi has a an artwork of hers where she's actually looking at herself because she does self-portraiture. And I did that by myself. I was like, I've never actually looked. And I happened to tell the guy that I write about in the book, we're in our early 20s, and I told him what I had done. He was like, I've seen it because I've had sex with you, but I've never really looked at it with you, you know? And we sat, and it was a very intimate moment because I laid down, we took a mirror. So I had looked at myself and he looked at me, and there was a love and an appreciation of understanding. He was asking me like, what does this do? How does this feel? And I think that is body appreciation. You need to look at yourself. You need to appreciate that this is your body. This is what it looks like. So I'm such a huge advocate of that. Like Tiffany Mugo, you are a treasure. I can't wait to actually have wine with you in person once we're done with the social.
It's going to be so fun. It is going to be so fun.
It'll be amazing. And you're going to come back on this podcast over and over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
And low key, I'm trying to be friends, but we'll get to that at another time. So if people hold of you, where do they find you? Like, I know you're on social media. I think it's at Kagure Mugo, right?
At Kags Mugo. I think that's my Instagram. Like I'm not on any other social media platform except Instagram, guys. Like
it's the only
I love Instagram so much. Like, yes, I forgot my own thing, but yeah, it's at Kags Mugo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Kags, everybody, Mugo. And please go, like us Black female authors, we need your support. Please go buy Tiffany's book. It is a quirky, quick guide to having great sex. You all need to have great sex. Remember to communicate what you want to your partner. Find the information, Google, masturbate, ladies, masturbate.
Yes.
Sex. And appreciate your body. Tiffany, thank you so much for your time, for being you, for liberating us as women, particularly Black African women. I couldn't be more prouder to have. When I turned 30, I went on a trip to Kenya by myself. I wanted to go on a trip by myself. So Kenyan people have shown me the most amazing love and care. And I had the best time in Kenya. I became me in Kenya. So thank you so much for being you. May you continue to be open. May we have this conversation when our tits are by our ankles, and let's take the young ones. You deserve all the orgasms. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
You're amazing.
This was awesome.
It was great, wasn't it? It was great. She's a journalist. She's a freelance writer. She's a blogs, books, everything. She's amazing.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you.
This is so fun.
It was good. Guys, we'll see you next time. We're going to have more wine. We're going to top up our bottles. So later.